It's Thursday, and I'm here to report what's happened in the last 24 hours, and I have to say that in the process of documenting this, as you might expect, it's changed what I'm doing. I've decided that the first thing I want to focus on in terms of catering, bakery, what I call bakery, and restaurant, is I'm going to focus on bakery. What I call bakery is when I put up a menu each week, Sunday night, Monday morning, and then people look at the menu and they pick what they'd like, and then I make it, and then they come pick it up. That's the way it's been working up to now. But also up to now, I've only been communicating with people who speak English. When I first started this, I assumed that the only people who would be interested in the kind of cooking that I did was Americans and Canadians, or perhaps French people who lived abroad. And so I would then do all of my advertising in English, assuming that only other Anglophones would be interested in sesame bagels or apple crisp, things that are traditional to me, but that French people don't eat. French people don't eat apple crisp because they don't like cinnamon. Okay, that's a whole other episode. Will be the adaptations to the recipes to make them Frenchable, to make French people eat them. So anyway, up to now, I've been doing this for 5 years. It might even be longer. All of my clients have initially been English speaking. So as I want to grow this now, and I'm unsatisfied with the growth trajectory, I'm now going to have to go beyond just English speaking people, okay? This is obvious. So I've decided that the first thing I'm going to do is to look at the bakery pickup, the weekly catering, and I'm happy to do it more than weekly. And I'm happy to have a bigger menu than I do now. But to begin, I'll continue with what I'm doing, which is once a week and a total of 9 menu items each time, which is 3 breads, 3 meals, 3 desserts. And if I'm going to attract French people, my French language skills are not great. And so I am not comfortable writing in French the same way that I am in English. And while I can have some things written and translated, and I can speak pretty well face-to-face, my ability to do written communication is poor. And I think that one of the ways I can get French people interested in the food, and English-speaking people too, is to meet them, is to explain what I'm doing, and if I can offer free delivery, which I generally can't offer because my clients are all over the city. But if I just work with the people in my neighborhood, I'm pointing out the window, up my street, around the corner, just right here, then I can deliver because they're right here. So I thought, okay, I'm going to walk into the optometrist office, the pharmacy, the nail salon. Those are the sorts of stores that are in this part of town, and explain what I'm doing. And then I thought, okay, well, I don't know what that's going to look like. So then I thought maybe I'll take them a sample. And so last night I went to bed and I made up like the lists. You've done this before, right? The lists of what could be in my little sample box and how big should the box be and what's a good representation of colors and shapes and flavors. And you can see that there's still a rabbit hole component to this where I can get so excited by should this be square and this be round and this be side by side that I then don't do it. So I thought, okay, I've made a list. It's going to take me perhaps 20 times of walking into random places before I figure out what to say, in what order, how, what are the right anecdotes, what's the right story, who do I ask to speak to, is my French terrible, is this going to work at all? Like, I think it might take 20 tries. So I can't spend too much energy at the front trying to make sure that my first attempts are perfect, because they're not going to work anyway. Like, you just assume I assume my first attempt is not going to work. So what I'm going to do, in fact, is I'm going to start with about 5 blocks from here and test that street, because I assume they're all going to fail, because I want the people who take it to be closer to me so that I don't have to walk so far. It'll be a tragedy, I know, if people far away say yes. The next step then would be to decide what I'm going to make, in what size, and in what kind of package. And if I look at what I already have in terms of boxes, I have a really large one, which is not really a sample for a small office. And then I have a small one, but it's too deep. It's like this. So then it would need to have 2 levels. So this will be one of those situations where you're trying to grow something, you're trying to make a business, you're trying to make it look like something. And so I have a picture in my head of this perfect box that's this big, which is, 6 inches square, and perhaps even has a glassine see-through top so that when you give it to them, they can see what's in it. That would be even better. I know that this little box of treats will need to be accompanied with something in print in French, and it will need to be something to explain the menu and then the ordering and then the delivery. It'll need to be explained. And it would make sense if some of what I'm giving them is on the menu that week, so that if they taste the banana bread and they like it, that they can then order it for delivery that week. This is where I've been since you saw me last. Since you saw me last, I've decided to start with cakes and cookies in the sample because they don't need to be refrigerated, because they have the lowest cost in terms of things I'm giving away, especially when I don't know what I'm doing. If later I find that these boxes work really well, then I can put in things like cheesecake and other high cost items that maybe are more grabby and more attention getting. But to begin, when I don't know my presentation, I'm going to go with simpler things that I'm not so emotionally attached to, so that if I give them the box and then they never open it or they just throw it in the garbage after I leave, that I'm okay with it. I hope that doesn't happen, of course. I know that I need to update my website so that when people go to the website, it's in French and English, which it isn't yet. I know that I need to look at my logo because I did it myself 7 years ago and it's poor. It needs at least a font adjustment, if not a total redesign. We could argue that the company name is wrong, but I'm leaving it for now. And before I set up too many things that make it impossible to go forward, I want to go forward. I want to go forward even if the stuff's not in place, because I can be testing what I say. Like I said, the whole 25 people thing. I can be testing that. And there's some work to do. Like, once I figure out the size of the box, and I'm going to put 6 samples in it, it won't be this big. Then I have to look at the size of the samples so that they fit in the box nicely. And so it may mean resizing a cookie or a brownie or a square of banana bread so that it's a decent size. And that'll take, I'll have to make a banana bread and cut it up and put it in the box, take some pictures, post them on Facebook, see what you think, get some feedback, and then that'll still take a bit of time. But I'll need a time limit, because if I don't have a time limit, I won't do it. I mean, like anybody, like anything, I'll just wait and say, oh, well, I'll just deal with English-speaking people. It's easier. So that's part of the accountability of doing this. But also it's to document it so that in 2 years I can look back and look at what the thought process was and watch the growth. And I think it's just cool to have some documentation of it. Before I go, though, I will report in on pistachio cookies. They're little. I made little because I thought they would be samples. This is pistachio shortbread. This is not a final form either. This was just a form to cook them, to taste them. In the end, they taste like lemon shortbread. Even though it has pistachio in it, even though it has pistachio paste and ground pistachios, it does not taste like it. It tastes like lemon. And so then I've decided not to pursue this recipe, because to put an expensive ingredient like ground pistachios into the cookies, where it doesn't make them green and it doesn't make them taste like pistachio, doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to save the pistachio for the cheesecake, which I have. And I may explore again another recipe, but these ones, to use up the bergamot lemon, these could just be lemon shortbreads, in which case they're fabulous. And they smell like Christmas. And I will work on the form of them, the size too, depending on the size of the box. And I haven't yet decided if I will put lemon shortbread in that box. But at least I know for the regular catering menu, I have a way to use up my bergamot lemons, is to make some lemon shortbreads. So if I could share these with you, I would. Although to be fair, out of the 12 samples that I made, there are only 4. So you'd have to come like right now. So what do I need to do next? I need to go and actually get some boxes so I can see the size so that I can work backwards. I need to do a very preliminary bit of work on website. I'll leave the logo for now. I need to do a bit of preliminary work on a handout that's translated. And so I think that maybe I'll be talking to Stephanie or Annie. And I need to make some banana bread and bake it so that it's not very tall, and then try to cut it in squares and see what it looks like. I haven't done that before. And see how much waste there is and see if that seems worthwhile. That's a lot of stuff for 24 hours, isn't it? So I will probably not report back right away. I need to go get the boxes, which is at a specialty supply store, although I will take pictures when I get there so that you can see what's happening. And that's it. I'll report back again when I have something to say. Okay. Talk to you soon. Okay, bye.